And I think that that's it. I think we're live, y'all. Um, whew, this book. I'm super excited. I'm waiting. I'm hoping that Shayna joins us shortly. So let's just dive in. I really want to talk about. Actually, no. I'm just gonna. There's so much I want to talk about with regard to this book. Okay, so Shayna just said she's on her way. This was Shayna's pick. I'm going to do the usual. Today we are looking at the Tinderbox Soldier of Indira, which is by Diamond Phillips, the actor Diamond Phillips, who I like. I like this guy, right? Like, he's cool. I've seen him on the screens.
Bamba.
Yeah. You know, he's got a good vibe. I haven't heard any like crazy Hollywood like shitty things about him or anything, which is like a thing you need to look out for these days. Talia, how are we doing there? I know Talia was having some technical difficulties with the camera.
I'm just gonna put up a picture and I'll just be audio.
Okay, all right. No worries. Not a big deal. Yeah. So I had feelings. Let me read the thingy-majiggy. So The Tinderbox, Soldier of Indira by Diamond Phillips. Two worlds at war will bring them together, or tear them apart. Everson didn't want to be a soldier. His parents forced him to serve, as all good Indiran men should. The only problem? His first battle against their mortal enemies goes horribly wrong, and he winds up stranded on the enemy planet. Now, Everson has to survive in this strange new land where everyone is out to get him. Not to mention the planet Mano is covered in unforgiving desert. And he's the target of traitors who want to use him in a dastardly plot to overthrow their mad king, Xander the Firm, by having him retrieve a piece of mysterious and powerful ancient technology known as the Tinderbox. But everything changes during a chance encounter with the king's daughter, Allegra. Despite her station, she's in as grave of danger from her own people as Everson is. And though their peoples have been at odds for centuries, an unlikely spark forms between them. As their worlds come crashing down around them, their forbidden love might be the only chance to end this war forever. Or it might just be the doom of everyone.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
Ta-da.
So while we're still waiting on Shayna, because this was Shayna's pick for BookCult this week, and right. I would normally ask her to go first, tell us her thoughts, tell us her feels, her thinky thinks. But we all move it on Brown People Caribbean time. So I will ask Brie to go first because I know Brie has been dying to talk about this book.
You know what I called it, right? You remember what I called it in the chat,
what?
Right?
Oh no, what did you call it?
Yeah, where I referred to it as what was it? Brown Savior Complex.
Oh, that's a whole different. Let's go one step at a time.
Yeah.
Brie, thinky thoughts.
Oh, I'll think my thoughts. Okay, I read this actually weeks ago because for once I wasn't procrastinating. I'm always the one, sliding in, finishing the book 3 minutes before BookCult. But anyway, I read it 3 weeks ago and I liked it. And I liked it for the reasons of it's a particular flavor. Is it super original? Maybe not, but it is entertaining. And sorry, my dog is being a pain in the butt. It's entertaining. And I liked it because the flavor that it is reminded me of said movies and these movies, by the way, were not critically acclaimed, not necessarily had big fan bases, but I liked them again for the same purpose. It's a flavor. So Jupiter Ascending, Valerian, and John Carter, Princess of Mars. I loved all 3 of those movies because it's fast-paced adventure. You got a little romance, you got a little intrigue, and are these earth-shattering deep plots? Not necessarily, but are they fun? Absolutely. And I kind of got that feeling with this book. It was a fun ride. It was enjoyable. And I think maybe some characters are better than others. We'll talk about that. And I also really enjoyed, I don't know if you guys enjoyed this, his acronyms. I thought Lou Diamond Phillips was very creative with acronyms. But anyway, those are my thoughts. I did enjoy it.
Okay, cool. We have somebody who I don't know reach late, but they reach.
They reach, yes.
Yeah. I got called out for busting the mark on this person before now, so I know who it is today. David's also here. Edgar Rice Burroughs vibes, kind of overdone, but classic and fun. Yeah, I actually think that's a great way to describe it. Kind of overdone, but classic and fun. My specific feels around this book. So I have like a two-part vibes, but I don't want to get ahead of myself. Let's get Talia. Talia wants to talk about Brown Savior Complex. So let me go first because that is a whole conversation.
No, that's the vibe I got at first.
Does he vibe Brown Savior Complex? Yeah. So my feels on this are, like I said, two-part. I think on the one hand, this is a perfect example. This is a fever dream book. What I mean when I say this is a fever dream book is when you are 60 or 70 years old and you dream up this incredible epic that has everything there is to have, like sweet ass modern technology with like fancy like military like weird shit and bombs, a big overarching prophecy, star-crossed lovers romance. Like this is a fever dream book. Like all of those things that you want to put into your first novel when you decide, oh my God, I'm going to write an epic. It's going to be badass. It's going to be in space, but it's going to have magic. And it's going to, like, when you have that, and honestly, I liked that about this book. Like I liked the fever dreamness of it because it's the overdone classic, but fun. And it has all of that. And I really enjoyed that part of it. I really enjoyed that aspect, right? And there comes the but. And that's not true. I don't think there's a but. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that full stop. And I also have feelings about this book from a technical perspective. So from a technical perspective, I think that this book did lots and lots and lots of telling. I think that this book is much. It's written in an I don't necessarily want to say an older style, but it is written in a style that was much more common, I think, over 10 years ago or over 20 years ago, even maybe. And that's kind of part of why it has that classic vibe, because it's written in a way that books were written a significant period ago, right? That science fiction books were written quite some time ago. I think that a lot of my feelings around this now are falling into areas of taste. So like I've been reading lots of books recently that have a much closer perspective, right? Like the point of view is much deeper in the character's skin. And not to say that means a first person point of view. I think that, I read a lot of third person point of view books and it's absolutely fine. This was written in the third person, but I didn't get that feeling of closeness. I didn't feel like I was really sitting in any of the characters' skins.
A little more third omniscient, I think.
It's a little more third omniscient. But the thing is, I don't think it was written like third omniscient. I think that perspective-wise, it was third limited.
Okay.
But the voice did not change from perspective to perspective. And that made it feel, Talia, you are very blurry. I think she can see that. She's been having some issues with her camera. Hey, look, Sheena reach. Hey, girl.
Hi.
No,
that's
I suddenly understand why you were late. The hat and all you were like out and about, I'm assuming. Is that a dog in the corner? Is that a dog that I saw in the corner?
Pet tax. Somebody has to pay the pet tax. Somebody has pet tax to pay.
Come here. Here. Zoe.
Hi. Hello.
This is my Beasley.
Hi, Beasley.
Hello, Popper. Y'all, what the fuck was I saying?
Third,
No,
We
it
took
third
a break.
limited.
Third, okay, third and first. Okay,
Pet
yes.
tax.
All right. So, sorry, yes. Now that the pet tax is paid, actually, Shay, what did you hear? Did you hear like what Brie and such shared, or where did you jump in?
I heard something about a camera. That was it.
Oh, okay. So you got in just
Find
as
out.
we like we like segued to talk about Talia's cameras being a little silly. Okay. So I was let me try to summarize. Bree, do you want to just like summarize what you had said about your feels and your vibes, and then I'll come back because I definitely want us all
Sure.
to be on the same page to move forward.
Sounds good. Hi, Shayna.
Hi.
So basically, what I said was I enjoyed the book because it was of a certain flavor. It was fun, it was exciting, and it reminded me of not critically acclaimed movies, but movies that I enjoy very much, like John Carter, Princess and Mars, Valerian, um, Jupiter Ascending, among other movies of the same type that, again, don't necessarily have huge fan bases, but a person like me who's very into sci-fi and adventure can appreciate it for what it is, fun. Do I think it's like earth-shattering and whatever? Because we'll also talk like the star-crossed lover part, like, who falls in love overnight, you know? But I still enjoyed the ride, and I thought it was a fun book. So yeah.
Yeah. And I think that David in the chat, he had a really good summary of it.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of overdone, but it's classic and fun. I think that was a pretty good summary of how I felt as well. So my thoughts on it were basically that this is a fever dream book when you're like a really young writer and you just want to write that epic science fiction and fantasy classic that has magic and romance and robots and like technology and like everything and you want to
Prophecy.
fill in space and a big prophecy. Yeah. Like this is the book that you write. This is the book that you write when you want all of those things. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it because I think the young writer Care definitely understood the desire for all of those things to get mashed into one story. But I had a lot of feelings about it. And as I mentioned, I think that this goes back to my taste and what I've been reading more recently is that I had a lot of issues with this book, not in terms of the story or the vibe or how fun it was, because it had vibes. But I had a lot of issues in a technical sense. And then activist Care also had a little bit of tingling around some of the things in the book. Did anybody else get those tingles? No?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got
Oh, yeah. Well, Talia, I remember, yeah, because Talia is talking about Brown Savior Complex. That was her summary of the book.
No, what the summary was, it was a vibe I got. It was a vibe.
Okay. So what I was saying about the technical things about the book that I had some issues with were, one, I felt like this book was a lot of telling. They told me how people felt and they told me what people were thinking and they told me and they told me and they told me, but I didn't feel like I was really in any of the characters' skin. I think that the voice did not change from perspective to perspective, which is something that I'm used to now, in large part because I'm so used to a style of writing these days where you're much more in a character's skin and you have a much closer view, a much closer feel or vibe of that character. And this book was not that. This book had a lot more distance, even though I think it was trying to do third person limited. And the way it was written, I think the style of writing is a style that we're very used to from like years ago. But it's not as common now, and it's not getting, ooh, Talia, you're doing the thing. Talia's camera, calm down.
Yep. Right.
All right. Yeah. So that's kind of my feel. I feel I don't think I enjoyed this book as much as I could have because it had all of those there were all those technical aspects that really separated me from what could have been a much more immersive experience. I think that the world building and stuff was super cool. They had a lot of really cool world building elements and things like that. But yeah, so like I don't know. I feel like I'm right down the middle with this book. I think I see what it wanted to do. I see what it wanted to be. I see where it was going. and I vibe with that. But there was a lot in the execution of the book, and some of the, like I said, like activist, like Spidey sense tingles, that made me go, well.
Was it with the leftists? Is that, I have to remember because I read it too long ago.
There were a few things, but now that she's here, and this was your pick, I want to hear all your thoughts and feels, your thinky thinks. What's up?
Okay, so this has been somewhere in the middle, towards the bottom of my read list for a while. And it's mostly because I like Diamond Phillips is one of my favorite actors and has been for a really long time, and I just wanted to see, what kind of a story he would come up with. And when I kind of dove into the story a little, like before I picked up the book, like the background to it was that, he was taking, the, I was at Hans Christian Andersen's, like whatever story from that he wrote from a children's story. So when I picked it up, I had really low expectations, knowing that this is coming from someone whose career has mostly been an actor. He's done some like screenplay writing, but not a whole lot of like novel works. I didn't have like high expectations for it going into it, and I think that kind of served me well, because reading through it and having those lower expectations, like I enjoyed it for what it was. It was just an imaginative story, kind of playing off of in inspiration from a children's like story tale. So from that perspective, I felt like it did all of the things that I felt like a good like young adult novel should do. It kind of gives you an easy arc to follow. It gives you some a new kind of world to look at, and these characters that you can kind of easily understand their motivations and kind of why certain things would turn here and there. So it was a bit of light reading is kind of how I took it, and I thought that it's more like a palate fresher from all of the other things that I've been reading lately, which have been highly technical or like very thought-provoking things and stuff. So it's just kind of more of a palate cleanser for me. It's kind of nice. It was refreshing.
Okay, cool. Talia, since we can't see you, I definitely want to hear you while I look at your lovely picture. Tell us all your thinky thoughts. Are you? I don't know what's going on. Talia, can you say something so that we can?
We know you're there.
Oh, there we go.
Oh.
I see what happened.
She'll be like, if you need help, blink twice.
She'll be back though, I'm sure. If not, I'll get a message. If not, I'll get a message from her about that. Yeah. Okay. So let's kind of go down the line. I want to hear what other folks felt in terms of the tingles, because Shayna made a face when I said that, and so I get the impression that Shayna had some tingles too.
I had some reservations for sure. I was admittedly kind of pissed off that Allegra and all the other female characters, Queen Nor, was it Miranda, even like she was the daughter of the Baron and stuff. Like these were like three pretty strongly written women that kind of sat by the sidelines and did nothing, and then somehow came on top at the end. And I was pissed off about that, because I felt like they could have done a lot more. The leftist was something I was like is kind of, I felt like thrown in there as a and the way that like Tobias was kind of inspired by talking with Everson, like just like once, and kind of him showing him a kindness, and kind of turned him into like a all of a sudden underground rebel was kind of weird. I felt like there's a lot of, I don't know, a lot of things in this story that I was kind of like, this is not, I don't know, not very well thought out, or definitely written by a a male author that didn't think a whole lot about what it would mean to people from different backgrounds or women for writing their stories in such simplistic terms. I'll put it that way.
It's almost like it was a sheer brush stroke. It's like instead of a
Yeah.
nice opaque paint, it's like, oh, let's do this, but it's like sheer and then sheer.
It's just very, very broad brush
Yes.
strokes. Yeah, it's a good way of putting it, Brie. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. I was unimpressed.
I hit that on the first page. So like it was not easy for me to dig in at the beginning of this book. I think it took some time for me to it took some time for me to feel invested in this book at all. And some of what you identified there in terms of like, I think that could just easily, I think those are plot holes. They're plot holes that tell me that the motivations, I think that the motivations and some of those like deeper, those things that make those characters deeper and more three-dimensional it's not clear. It's not clear. If you're like hearing my cat screaming at me in the background, I'm so sorry. Like she's been doing that for like a minute straight. Yes.
She has thoughts too.
She does. Tira's been doing this thing since DC passed away and we got his collar and everything back, where it doesn't matter where we put his collar, it is not safe anywhere because she will take it out and she will walk around with it in her mouth and just like yell. And it's honestly very heartbreaking and it kind of like makes me feel weird every time because she's the only one who does it, but she was also really close to him. So it's kind of, it screws with me. But anyway, that is what she was doing just now. I apologize. My cat is also grieving.
No, don't apologize.
It's almost as if it was very plot driven and not character driven.
Yeah. Yes, right.
So we got a lot about we got a lot about the prophecy. We got a lot about the Tinderbox itself, and then we got a lot about the reuniting of the planets. But as far as the characters being deep,
I would argue that Tinderbox almost had nothing to do with the story once it was kind of found. Like it was kind of like it was a device.
It was, what it was? It was almost kind of a Deus Ex Machina. It was like there to save him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Meh.
I felt like, and this is one of the reasons that I use the word fever dream to describe it. Because when you want to write that big epic, when you're like a brand new baby writer and you're just like, I'm going to put all the things!
Just like that.
Just like that.
Yeah,
And he's done screenplays. He's done screenplays before, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't do a whole lot of research. I
He's
did know that it was.
He's helped with like he hasn't. I don't think he's written like full on screen. Well, maybe he has, and I'm sorry. I apologize if he has. But
you wrote this as a screenplay at first.
Yeah. I think
it
so.
It reads like that. It actually. Okay, so my thoughts, which I'm finally getting around.
Right. I know. Thank you. I'm sorry that it took so long.
No. I think it was because of my technical difficulty that you felt like you filled in. But I had my own biases against it because one, it's a celebrity written book, so I thought it was going to be really bad, or it was going to be just him slapping his name on someone else's work. So I went into this thinking it was going to be one of two things. It was not really, really bad. It was actually pretty good. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the book. It's like, yes, I saw the plot holes, or I saw the inconsistencies, or I saw all of it, and I was like, that's fine. But this book have vibes.
This book have vibes.
Exactly.
This book running on vibes. It have vibes.
And it's like that's why it's like, but no, wait, he have writing credits. But his writing credits for screen, and I'm like, I'm reading this book, and I'm like, oh, I wonder who he writes himself as, because I didn't really see like that Mary Sue character that he might have been, but I think that he might have either been the Indiran king or he might have been the Indiran general. One out of those two characters if he was writing himself, or if he really wanted screen. And I'm there trying to find who he wants to play.
I just want to interject. Here only
Uh-huh.
says, I confess I used to have a crush on the author. I don't understand why that's in past tense. This is a very
Yeah.
good-looking man.
He is a very good looking man.
That's,
Still
that's
is.
I 70% of the reason I was like, oh yeah, this book needs to be read because I was like, yeah, that was her best boy. I hope the book's so best too.
And
Right? Like
he's the reason why I got into watching Longmire when I was strung up after an operation a few years ago, and then I found out that we had oh my gosh, I almost said her character name from another show. One who played Kara Thrace in Battlestar Galactica. Actress Katie Sackhoff. She's in that show
sorry,
too.
I was trying to unmute myself, but there's also the ice cream truck.
So like he drew me to this show Longmire, and then like I found out Katie Sackhoff was in it, and I was just like, I'm done. And then there are like Native Americans in that show. So sorry, I'm not gonna go into Longmire. Don't take me there.
Yeah, I love myself some Katie Sackhoff, so like I'm with you. I remember when you were watching that too, because we were talking about Longmire, and I was like, I need to watch this because
she's awesome person just in general too. I got to meet her a few years ago.
Fancy. Anyway, Talia, we were talking about that this book is vibes. This book is running on fumes and vibes.
And that's, I mean, if you got fumes and vibes, you can get to where you're going, right? And to add to the conversation,
I'm not stopping you, but somebody remind me to come back on that whole idea of you could get to where you're going with fumes and vibes, because I have things to say about that. Anyway, please.
Yeah. To add to the conversation about he's a good-looking man, etc. But Lou Diamond Phillips in a turtleneck from Prodigal Son. Like I mean, mostly, yeah, exactly.
Aaron says most recently loved Lou in Prodigal Son.
Right. And it's that turtleneck that was taking us through, that's why we want more seasons, but it's been cancelled. So, we're deprived. But I thought it was going to be a terrible book, but it wasn't. It was a decent book. And I think that for a first time novel, this is like his debut novel, right?
Yeah. And
I saw it like, this is his first novel. He's therefore a baby writer. And I can give him that. It's like, okay, I can see, his influences then from film and so on, because like, okay, you're supposed to be sad here. And so therefore the character was sad, right? So, but he told this story. I loved it. I saw this as I'm reading, and I'm reading it, and I'm seeing it as being a movie in my head, and I absolutely adored it. I absolutely loved it. And yeah, I liked that. I went with the whole brown savior complex, because if it was the other way around, we'd be like, oh, the white savior complex in this book. Rah, rah, rah. It's like, yeah, they never have enough water to have full parts, and then there was the way he treated like the animals and so on. And then when he went to get the Tinderbox, it was all, oh, but that's what that is, and it's because we can read on our planet, and our planet does these things better, so therefore our culture is better. I liked it. I liked that arrogance in it. Let me be real. I really like the arrogance.
What you're saying is you like yourself a jerk face main character. That's fine, You can say that,
Yeah.
Man was a privileged little douchebag, but you know what? Is the little privileged douchebaggery that you didn't need to survive. What you gonna do?
What you gonna do? Sometimes you need a little extra some, right?
Yeah, like an extra dollar in your pocket.
The main character felt like a real person that I knew, that I could know, The character felt very, like that character. He put a lot of work into his main character, and that felt very real.
But I think that shows in how much work he did not put into some of the other characters.
Yeah.
Like the example that Shayna used with the woman, because from the very beginning, I got that men writing women vibe from like the first pages. Because when we first get into I think the very first time that we encounter any of the women is when we get to Allegra's chapter, Allegra's point of view, right? That's like what, chapter 2?
Yeah.
It's early in the book, but it's like after this boy starts getting like dragged away by the leftists, right? Calling these monstrous beasts leftists was something else. But anyway,
They were left behind. It makes sense.
yeah, sure. That's all that there was to that. Let's pretend. Let's pretend that nobody read this and thought that there was more to that name than the people who were left behind. Let's just pretend. But oh yeah, so when we get to Allegra's chapter, we get Allegra and it's Geneva, I think. And then the Queen Nor, and then right after that we get to the other planet, Indira, and we get Patra, Queen Patra, right? I think, yeah, I think so. But at any rate, like, we meet all of these women very quickly in the context of meeting all of these other people. There's also the witch. What's the name? Isn't there another name? She's another name?
I forgot her name,
So
but she was the one involved with the general.
Yeah.
She was involved with the chancellor.
She's the chancellor,
yeah,
that's right.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
I kept picturing the damn snowman from that movie that we will not mention.
Yeah, same. That was my first thought when I met Olaf as well. But anyway, which is interesting because like this book only came out in 2020. Very interesting. But anyway, so like we meet all of these women, and when we first get these descriptions of like Allegra and her perceptions of Geneva, and then we meet Nor and then the other queen, and how they're all being described, how they are described. So like I think General Ban is who describes Queen Petra at first. It's Petra, right?
Yeah, Petra.
Petra. How the general, hi, what less? Thank you for joining. I'm so impressed that you actually like decided to come watch today after yesterday. Yeah, like just how he described the Queen of Indira. I was just kind of like, because he's like, oh, he's basically about how she's kind of like low class because she's a farmer, but they were such good farmers and owned so much land that she was elevated. And all sorts of shit. And I was just like, are you trying to describe admiration? Are you trying to like tell like
you work hard enough to get
like what are you? There was just all of these descriptions of characters, and I think that she's not the only character. I was kind of like, you know, with how they're described. But I think I don't know. I want to come back to before I get. Oh my goodness, what is going on with Talia today? Are you okay? Are you there? Are you present, Talia?
I mean, I don't know what's going on. I just plugged in. I had to switch to the phone, and I realized that my battery was running low. I don't think we would make the entire.
Okay. Well, you plugged in and stuff, right?
Right.
So.
I plugged in. I just plugged in.
All right. Well, good. Shit, I hope it works out. What was I saying? Okay, so I want to talk about this whole like vibes. Vibe. All you need is vibes to get where you're going, right? That's bullshit. Right. That's BS. That's BS. So like talking now from the side of, and I can't, like, I'm no big expert on publishing. I've only just really started this whole journey, and like I'm just learning. I'm not an agent or anything yet. I'm just learning how to, like, you know, I can read queries now. I'm learning how to properly assess a manuscript for like quality and things like that. And I think perhaps that experience in these last few months, and then my experience advancing as a writer in the last year or two, is really why I had so much, like, there was so much question mark for me around so many parts of this book from a technical aspect, because if this were anybody else and not someone who already had a big name and an established career, you throw this in somebody's inbox, bruh, and it was not getting a bite. It's not getting a bite. It's not happening. At least I don't think so. I don't think so. I would read this right now in a query inbox, and I would immediately just I would be like, okay, this is a C, and I'd move on to the queries in the queries. Like, that's what would happen if I saw this book in the query inbox, because I would look at, all I would need to see is those first 10 pages, and I'd be like, these first 10 pages are info dumping. These first 10 pages are straight telling. These first 10 pages do not know what kind of point of view you are in. Are you third person omniscient or are you third person limited? I don't know. And assuming that you are, because it's really trying to be, it's omniscient, but it's told like third person limited. And I would look at this and I would go, there is zero variation between the 3 or 4 points of view that are in just those first pages. Zero variation, right?
In the first chapter, when it flipped to I guess it was the general's point of view, they're on the battlefield, and then now it's talking from him. He's about to release the bombs. I was listening to an audiobook. I actually didn't realize at first that I had switched perspective, and then I had to rewind it and listen again and be like, oh, this is the general or whoever it is. So I almost felt like head hopping for a minute, and I hate when that happens. It confused me.
Yeah. I mean, but then it would even switch perspectives in the middle of chapters too, and it was it kind of made me appreciate more authors we've read in the past, where they would actually dedicate whole chapters to this character's perspective, and that way, as a reader, you could kind of set your mind around, what character am I, trying to follow now. But yeah, I was getting annoyed with that, and I actually I picked up the book because it's literally been sitting on my shelf for a while to read, and even though I had the book in front of me, I kind of had to turn pages back a few times and be like, wait, who am I supposed to be reading this from again? It was kind of annoying after a while. I agree with that.
Yeah, so I'm all about the vibes from the perspective as a writer, right? And I know that there are people watching now. This is a consistent joke in our writers group. Yeah, all vibes, no plot, just vibes, only vibrations, right? This whole story is just vibes right now. And I get it. I get that. And that's why I think that if anybody else had written this book, it would never have gotten this far, unless that person was also another celebrity, somebody else with a name and with the ability to promote it the way it obviously happened. Yeah, there we go. Oh, Wallace said that I love that name, Talia. And then Erin is like, yes, vibes tribe, because that's what we are about. We are about the vibes. And I tell you, I love this book for the vibes. I do. I think that it was, yeah. And I don't get, you do, sometimes you get an impression. And I don't know if this is just my predisposition of who I think the writer is or what I think he's like, because obviously I have a preconceived notion of this guy. Yeah. As I've seen him on screen, but I'm choosing not to believe that this was purposefully malicious in any of the ways in any of the things that happen in terms of its accidental win, faux pas. Because even though I think that the women were very passive and two-dimensional and didn't really do anything important or engaging, they at least were not written. They were not written the way that you would often find physical writing and description for the most part, on Men Writing Women on Reddit. I don't think I would quote anything from this book. At least there's nothing that stands out to me that I would quote from this book and drop it on Men Writing Women and be like, boobs. That's not.
There's nothing that stands out, but there's nothing that stands out. So.
Yes, exactly. There's nothing that stands out, but there's nothing that stands out. That's it. That's specific. That's a really good way to describe that. And yeah, that's kind of. So what, Les? Nothing is wrong with boobs, but if you are a woman and men are writing about you, perhaps the first thing that a man describes,
Ask a woman.
you don't want it to be, and her melons juggled in the wind. Like, that's not what you want. Right? Bruh? Just trust. Just leave this conversation where it is. Trust, right? Yeah.
Our
And
eyes
if you
are
are
up here.
masochistic, go to Reddit, look up r/men writing women, and blow
Every
your
time
own
I
mind.
hear the phrase breasting boobily, this is what I imagine. I just imagine.
If you're gonna go to that Reddit,
I imagine a woman with very large breasts just doing that.
would you like me to demonstrate?
I will get banned off of YouTube and whatever other platform streaming. Do not demonstrate.
My inbox is open, Brie. My inbox is open. You may slide bubbly into mine.
OnlyFans.
Yes.
Oh my god. Yeah, Walla says that's a bad description.
Oh.
If she melons juggling, that's fantasy. Yeah.
I think my dogs heard
So-
barking, and now they're.
Yeah, but like I don't think that and that's kind of what I mean when I say that I feel less inclined to look maliciously upon any of these kinds of descriptions, right? Because I didn't see things that I didn't feel like those like descriptions of those kinds were particularly like nasty or misogynistic or like you know. There are ways to describe people that are misogynistic, that are even misandrist or like rapey or racist, or there are ways to describe.
From him at all.
I didn't get that vibe, and that's honestly the only reason that I'm like, I could get behind this book on its vibes. I think that there are things that definitely need working out. There are kinks that need to be worked out, but I could get behind this on vibes. And I was really interested. So okay. Now this is slightly beyond our regular book club territory, but bear with me, right? After reading this book and identifying all of those technical things that I identified as would never make it out of the query inbox, at least not in my perspective or my opinion, right? I was like, who the fuck published this? I mean, it's fine. His name is enough. And I went into this thinking it was definitely some like big fancy, like, old like the road publisher who was just interested. But it turns out that the publisher is only 2 or 3 years old. The publisher is a brand new publisher. They launched in 2018. They had a Kickstarter for their launch, if I recall correctly. Yeah. It is owned. I don't know if they're editors because I didn't get that far in my research, but it's owned by 2 SFF writers, and they publish exclusively SFF work, right? And they're open to queries too. So like you don't actually need to be agented to submit, which is not like uncommon entirely. It's not rare, but it's not rare, but it is uncommon. There are a lot of places out there that will not take submissions straight from a writer. Like you need to have an agent, you need to have rep, but these folks do. I do think that Lou Diamond, obviously, he's fucking represented. Like there is no question. Surely he has an agent for whatever it is he's doing.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really interesting that it was a new publisher on the block. But I'm also not surprised because there's been a lot of discussion recently around how SFF is contracting. YA SFF is doing a lot better than adult SFF in terms of the number of books being published every year and the number of acquisitions happening. And I thought it was interesting. I think it's clear that there are obviously people out there who want science fiction and fantasy of a certain flavor, because otherwise I don't think that this company would have popped into existence. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and so the writers who own the company, I think it's Rhett Bruno and somebody else. That's the only name I remember was Bruno, and one other person. I saw it on the Kickstarter. Like that's as far as my research really went, right? They're the ones who own this company, and they're the ones who published the book. And and they're a fairly young publisher. So I feel like I don't know what the editorial process is, if it was like what I understand it to be in like other houses that have been there longer, more traditional, whatever. But I totally understand like a new publisher having the opportunity to publish a book by a well-known, fairly like well-liked actor, being like, you know what, this book is not trash. It's got good vibes and good intentions. It need work. But I can put it out there, and people go like it because people just like the vibe. People just like the vibe. Yeah, high five. People just like the vibe. So like, I get that. I think that if this was a no-name person, it would never have fucking happened.
Yeah, I agree.
But
totally agree.
Yeah, but this is not a no-name person, and so it went straight through.
I mean, even taking a look at the book, I mean, like, the name of the author is bigger than the title.
Yeah.
That's advertising.
Yeah. But let's talk a little bit less around what the publishing gossip might be. Because like I said, I definitely had feelings around I don't think that this book, this is not a book that I think would have made it competitively if it had been anybody else's name.
I had written it, for example.
I mean, I would even argue that it hasn't even made it competitively in its own right either, even with like the author's name attached to it. I think this is a fine story, like I said, it's not to be taken seriously. I enjoyed reading it, but I didn't take it seriously. I think it's at best a tool to be used to try and promote a young publishing company, and that was it. And that's my whole reason for putting it on my book list, was just to see, what kind of a story would an actor put out there if they were given the chance, right? If they were given an ability to write their own story, like how would that turn out? And that was part of my curiosity for putting it on my list, on our list.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm glad I read it though. Like, I'm glad I read it. I like the actor. I thought this book was great vibes. But there was just so much. I can't unsee it now. And that's a problem that I'm going to have to live with for every book that I read from now until goddamn forever. Because I can't unsee all of the technical problems with a book anymore. Right? Like, my poor freaking critique partners are just getting pages and pages of ink these days. I don't know if any of them are watching. I apologize.
It's a stone to sharpen your tools on,
It is. But like, I don't know. I wonder if I will eventually learn to turn it off. I think. And because the thing that hurts me the most about it is that I think that when I'm awake and I've got all my tools and all my faculties, I can deliberately choose to turn it off and on a little bit better. But if I'm tired, it is on, and it is just on.
Yeah. No. So actually, you bring up a good point here, and I totally identify with this, because this is what's taken me away from reading science fiction and actually watching a lot of Marvel movies and superhero movies and things like that, is because as I learned more and got really good with my engineering degrees, like, it became really hard for me to look at anything from books to movies and other sources of creative vibes that I was like, I couldn't turn it off. Like, I sat there, and I'll shamelessly admit that I sat there in the middle of watching the latest installment of the Fast and Furious franchise, which I don't recommend to anyone go do, that has eyes that work. I literally sat in that movie and like just had my head in my hands like this for, if anyone knows anything about that film, for like a good portion of it. And my poor nephew, I went and watched it with him, and like our whole family wanted to go see it. I was like, all right, fine, like I won't resist. but yeah, and like I totally identify with that character because it's like these are the things where I'm like I just see problems and poke holes and in everything that's going on. So I've had to learn how to just step back and be like, okay, creativity is a process. It's never going to be instilled in the physical realities in which I know we live in. So I've taken a step back and I've challenged myself to actively learn how to turn it off and how to just take in people's creativity and find the pieces that you can appreciate these things for.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of what being, I think. I don't want to call myself an editor because I think I certainly don't get paid to do that kind of shit right now. But being like a critique partner and a beta reader, when you're engaging in a process where you're helping someone to edit their book by like pointing out flaws or like issues with the plot or the structure, or even like on the line level things that they're doing repeatedly that might be problematic, or descriptions, when you're engaging in that kind of work, there's a lot of that process is exactly what you've described, where you have to choose what to you have to step back and find all of the things worth appreciating, otherwise you're not going to finish it. And then you also have to you have to do that at like simultaneously, right? You have to read it and love it and appreciate it, and then you have to go in with like editor brain and be like, okay, but all of these things need to strengthen or change or fix or undo or redo or and that's a process.
It's pushing back the technicality of your brain and trying to focus on the content that's there and find the string or the story that that is beneath it all, right? And trying to root out the gems that it could contain. I won't say that everything like that has gems, right? But I think there are a couple gems in this story that you could take away if you choose to. But yeah, it's just something that I think we all have to challenge ourselves with every now and then is finding these things that are not well polished or have deeper meanings and stuff, because we can lose ourselves in those types of books all the time or movies or whatever, and challenge ourselves to think really hard about how things are placed and everything has a deeper meaning. But sometimes coming back to these stories and stuff, it's something that we can use to I know I said palate cleanser and everything before, but I mean this challenges you in other ways as a writer, as a person or a lover of science fiction, right? It's because you're trying to look at something that's not as polished or as refined or as deep and meaningful as other things that we've read. It's something that gets back to the basics of what we love about storycraft.
Yeah, and I vibe with that in a very deep way, because even I think perhaps Shayna and Bream know this about me a bit more maybe than Talia, and I know Shayna knows this very deeply, is that I am one of those people who would look at the screen and be like, that's not how physics works. This is not how biology works. Writers, who was your consultant? Did you listen to your consultant? This is not how it works. And
that is not how to science.
Yeah, this is not how you like this is not how to science moment. And I will, and Shayna knows this because I've done this to Shayna, where like I would leave a movie theater and I would message her and I'd be like, have you seen so and so? Because I do not think this is scientifically possible. However, you are the expert. And I do this we have a mutual friend as well, who works with space things also, and is also a science fiction writer. So I will absolutely message Russ and I'd be like, excuse me, did you see blah blah blah? Is this right? This is not right.
Here, how did you feel in Avatar when Sigourney Weaver takes her pipette without a pipette tip and flips it backwards, which you don't do? I saw that in theaters and I was like, what the actual fuck? Or maybe it wasn't in, when did the movie come out? Maybe I wasn't in biology then. I don't know, but whatever. Whatever came out. I saw this motion and I saw no tip, and I'm just like, what the fuck are you doing, Sigourney Weaver? Like, they didn't have a biologist on set.
Listen to me. That happens to me all the time. I will be like watching something on TV with Brendan, and I'd be like, that's fake. And he'd be like, well, it's fake. It's a movie. And I'm like, no, but it's inaccurate. It's inaccurately fake. Do you know what would happen if this happened if they did so and so in real life? Not that. We got some messages coming in from Facebook. So David says, how long and torturous the publishing process is fascinating. Spending that much time and effort into creation, into something that may never be born, it's scary. Ever since I read what bathos is, I haven't been able to enjoy a Marvel movie. Medical scenes in movies are horrendous. Dr. Strange's surgery scenes where he keeps touching his mask while sterile causes me physical pain. Listen! Oh my god, there's this show on Netflix. There's this show on Netflix called New Amsterdam. And that show...
I don't even bother. No, I can't.
Guys, my most recent... Oh, go ahead.
No, go, Brie.
Oh,
go.
I think my most recent one is not even biology, but I love aviation. Wonder Woman 84. I was throwing shit as I was watching that movie. You cannot fly an airplane through fireworks. Your airplane is full of fuel. But let me backtrack. The airplane was in an airfield as a museum piece. There was no fuel. Where did they get the GD fuel? Then they fly from there to Egypt in one shot, but they did not film the scene where they land on an aircraft carrier, steal fuel, because that little plane is not going from the US to Egypt in one shot. Aviation doesn't work that way. They did not have a person who's ever flown an airplane in their life on that set. Done. Mic drop.
Or the fact that, you have a pilot who has never flown.
That one! He flew World War I era airplanes, and now he's going to fly an airplane nowadays? Hell no. Even Echo agrees. Like, no.
Yeah, Echo knows it's just BS. I remember watching that. Who did I watch that with? Was that by myself or was I with Brendan? I was messaging somebody or I was talking to somebody, and I was just like, this is not... How did they get there? Where did they get fuel? And I looked at Brendan, and I was like, Brendan, what is... This is not... I remember watching that movie and just...
And no air traffic control. You weren't flying that by sight. They were going to collide into
movies
something.
where the vehicle has been not...
What else points out the museum pieces?
And then they just something and they start nothing and you can drive.
Well, I mean, this is not... I don't know.
The problem, David, is that like 75% of the people on this conversation are STEM major.
And Florida Tech was an aviation school. Like, hello.
Is.
Yeah. Good point. So like not only do we all have hardcore STEM backgrounds, but we're also women in STEM. And as I'm sure that everybody knows, if you're a woman in STEM, it's like 10 times worse. You have to be 10 times better at everything than anybody else. And that means that you know 10 times as much. Okay.
And you're going to get 10 times as much ignored.
And 10 times as stricken.
We have to be loud. That's it.
Loud and proud.
Like talking about the practical scenes, I worked in administration in a hospital. And I'm seeing strangers come up and ask things like, where is this patient? And like, you can't do that in Mount Hope. They just ask you for ID. You can't go and visit somebody just like that. And lots of other things like I have a lot of hotel experience. So, like a lot of hotel scenes bother me. They just you people have stayed in hotels. You should know, right? And I it's like, do you ask anyone anything? Like I know that there was this other story that I was writing, and I pulled a group and I was like, listen, all my police officer friends, tell me if these scenes make sense, right? Do we do this in Trinidad? And not just police officers, but your police officers in the country that I'm writing in. Does this happen? Does that happen? Does this make sense? No, this kind of information would never be given to somebody over a phone call. That would have never happened. This is policy. I do that, and I am nobody. for a story that I've stopped working on.
You are not nobody. You are Talia.
Well, yeah, that's correct.
You
That
are
is correct.
a pre-published writer, okay? Right.
Pre-published, pre-best-selling author. Thank you.
Pre-best-selling author, that's right. What let's add spies sitting in a hotel lobby all day and no one asks them what they're doing there.
Exactly.
It's true.
Aww.
I want to bring the conversation back to the book that we're actually supposed to be discussing.
Right.
This was a brilliant tangent though, because I also feel like I think a lot of what we've said in that tangent is very applicable to our experience of reading this book.
Yeah.
Because there was anybody else was like the Budans,
Yeah.
Budans, which are Budans. I like. Did anybody else feel like as biology goes? First of all, the whole planet cracking in half thing, and then still
being viable for living.
I did spend a lot of reality to accept that part.
Yeah. So we got that right. Okay, that's fine. Cool. Accept it. And then we had like, I'm not even like the list is too long.
It's a very long list. Though.
It's a really long list. Things
I actively chose to just ignore.
Yeah.
Side.
I'm not sure I understand the science behind why the leftists look the way they do. Is that?
No clue.
So the time machine did something similar with the people who lived underground were also very pale.
Oh, yeah, that's true. But I feel like the growth and like the size is what got to me though.
It suggests to me the physical manifestation of the living conditions did not match the living conditions.
Yeah.
Not based on the information we were given. I will admit that there is likely to be information we were not given because this book was a trip, it was a ride, it was a whole set of vibes up and down and roller coaster around and vibing. But I don't know that I as a biologist, and Brie, I guess you would be the person who could tell me how full of shit I am. But like from my perspective as a biologist, I don't think that the evolution of the people who are considered leftists really match the environmental factors that we were given.
We might have needed more information. And I think he was hoping that people wouldn't be like us, because for you to
there are no biologists. No biologists would ever read this book.
The only way I agree to the lighter skin tone. If you're not getting sun exposure, fine. Now, if we're talking about a massive size requires energy. So either they have an ability to store energy, so the metabolisms are very slow, or the opposite would be true. They'd be very thin and very small in stature. Low nutrients create smaller biological organisms, right? So it could have gone either way, but it was going to require explanation, right? What else was about them? Was it like small eyes and small mouths?
But they didn't. They had like really fleshy eyes and they had fleshy features. And so I'm wondering if maybe we could attribute some of that to like a water storage type situation, like how camels have that flesh, that like,
but
the flesh storage.
Membranes and fleshy things are subject to evaporation.
Exactly.
So you're not going to want to have something fleshy holding the water, and you're going to want to have something thicker to allow less water and air transfer.
Like a cactus.
Huh?
And these weren't cactus, more like cactus, and these weren't exactly cactus people.
Yeah, you're going to see membranous things. You're going to see in like caves, but with water.
So I feel like
there's an illustration.
Yes, that's what it's supposed to look like. That's what they're supposed to look like, and I don't understand why they look like this. And like the size and stuff does suggest that was one of the first things that I actually like kind of you know like mashed my brakes on with the biology of this world is that like you mentioned, Brie, their size suggests that they are either they have this like or they have access to nutrients, etc. But where did they live? Where were most of them based?
Underground, there's not going to be a lot of nutrients.
Right?
Yeah, I would have biologically, I probably would have had them be pale, thin, small, not strong, probably a species that hibernates and sleeps during moments of fast or famine. Yeah, so biologically, no, I guess they don't necessarily. You're right. Also, large, their stature, you'd almost think high gravity, but the gravity really didn't change if humans are allowed to be on the planet.
That's it. That's the other thing that really bugged me is that it suggests to me that there is a heavier, the gravity is stronger there, but it's not. So like, why did they turn out this way? Did that
The
change?
gravity wouldn't have changed.
Yeah, exactly. That was the other thing I was trying to remember. Thank you.
Or the gravity would have maybe changed when the planet split a little bit. But again, if humans can be on there, it's not a great amount.
Exactly. So it shouldn't have had such a big, and also like they had longer limbs and they were much more like gorilla-like, right? So I feel like that just didn't match. Onwe says, I kind of think that the way he explained everything else means whatever he didn't had no explanation. Honestly, yeah. I that's what I get. And the thing is, I don't think any of this means that this is a bad book or a bad story. I just think that these are all reasons that I don't see this book having received the attention and been published, like otherwise. Like I don't think, I don't know. I would read, if I read this book and somebody told me this was an unpublished manuscript, I'd be like, oh, okay, this is an early draft. Well, that's fine then. This is perfectly,
I think
acceptable.
His celebrity stature, because when this book was released, he was on TV. I think that nobody just told them like, hey, you need to work on this, that, and the other. This would be different. That would be different. I think nobody told him that because I don't know. I just can't see him. Maybe it's because, I just can't see him getting good critique like this and not making those changes. Because I'm surprised nobody's mentioned the Hydra reeds. Well, you add 2 drops of water and you get like bucket loads of water afterwards.
Mass cannot be created nor destroyed.
I was like, wait a minute. How would this work?
That was magic. That was magic. It was part of prophecy. That's all. That's like.
Yeah, because if it's science, if it's the science in science fiction, that's not gonna work. You can't create water where there is none.
I did like a whole graphic and put it up on the screen because I was reading from off of my phone, the Kindle on my phone. As I suspend belief. Science as you, big capital letters, you know it, does not exist here. Suspend. I had to do that. I didn't have to do that when I was watching or reading The Expanse.
Listen, the very first time we encounter a Hydra, was it a Hydreed?
Hydreed.
My boy pulled down his pants and pissed on it.
Yeah.
And to make matters worse, he could barely pee. Right? Because he was already so dehydrated. He could not muster enough spit in his mouth to spit on it, so he had to pee on it. I remember that distinctly because I remember thinking, you go and eat that, brother? After you take a piss on it? Well, I guess time's hard, so...
I think Bear Grylls might have been a consultant for this book.
I don't understand what kind of reaction has to have happened. And the way it's described, they aren't manufactured, they're grown on something, right?
They're like something, yeah.
On trees. They're a bean or something. Yes, they're like a fruit or a seed or something like that. I can't remember, but yes. Now here's the thing: I would have sooner believed this if it were some kind of chemical, like whiz alchemy kind of BS, right? Where adding water generates some kind of reaction.
A release of energy
that
resulting in
uses-
water as a byproduct or something.
Exactly.
Well, I mean,
precisely.
I've seen some. I mean, because like another thing you could do too is that it could be converting moisture in just the atmosphere, the air around it, to water too. Because I've seen some technology recently that's been developed to do that.
It could have been
and-
like hyaluronic acid. You know how it
Or like
absorbs 40
condensed-
times.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that takes more time, if I recall correctly.
and energy. So
Yeah.
oh,
The
I don't
way
know.
that's described there, if it's using the methodology you're describing, he would have died.
Yep.
He would have died from that.
End
from
of
that
story.
process.
Chapter 1.
End of done.
Switch to Allegra's point of view.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah, but I can appreciate that all of these are things that we just need to like. Well, I mean, I know she's been having. It's possible that her phone died because I know she had to switch. Yeah, I had. I mean, but this story had vibes. I do want to keep saying that. Like, I don't want anybody to think that because there have been books that we did not like. I do want it to be clear that I don't think. What Less Wants to Know Curious, why you choose this book by Diamond Phillips. So you probably missed that part. The way that we do it here on our BookCult is that we have a giant Excel sheet where everybody who is part of BookCult puts books that are on their to be read list that they think we would all enjoy or that they would like to read with a group instead of just solo, right? And then every couple weeks, we'll go through this list, or I will go through this list, and I would just randomly pick books from the list and make sure that every person on the list gets at least one book. And when I get to the end of, like, you know, Brie, Shay, me, Talia, once all four of us have a book picked, then I'll go again. Brie, Shay, me, Talia, etc. And this book by Diamond Phillips was on Shay's to be read list, and she had added it to our giant Excel sheet. And so we put it on there. None of us had read it before, so it was a brand new experience for everybody. It's okay. Sometimes there are books on there that we have read. Excuse me, but usually those are books that we have read, like the individuals who put the book on the list. Like, I've put books on that list that I've read. Or rather, let me rephrase that. I have not put any books on that list that I've read because I am selfishly using this as my excuse to read new books. So none of the books that I put on that list are books I've read. A couple people might put books on it that they read and that they really loved. And so if you really love the book and you want people to talk to about this book that you loved so much, which is a constant thing that somebody who reads books a lot wants somebody else to talk to about books they love. Then you might put it on the list, and then if it comes up, hey, you've already read the book, you know, you're good to go. And then you suddenly get 3 or 4 more people to talk about these books. I do want to talk a little bit. So Seidel is moving house, so she's not here with us today, which is really tragic because I know that she had thinky thoughts as well. And I do want to. I'm gonna have to, like, I don't know how to do this, but let me see if I can play. I'm gonna play back the note she sent me and tell you all what she said. Okay. So she says, sorry, she sent a voice note, so I'm trying to find the right place.
I was going to say, just so I can answer that question a little more directly while you're figuring that out. So I chose this book. Well, one, because I do love the actor. But mostly when I read the description and it came out, I was really curious to kind of see, you know, what kind of a story he would choose to write about, right? So, you know, for me, he has a pretty interesting background. He grew up in the Philippines. He's from the Philippines, and I think he grew up in Texas or something like that. But, you know, he's someone that's chosen to play a lot of different characters from like various different backgrounds and stuff. And as a man of color, I was really curious to see what kind of a science fiction novel would he choose to write and stuff. And so it was more out of curiosity for me. I hadn't read this before, certainly didn't put a whole lot of expectations on it because I knew the source was, first time author and, someone who does acting for a living and mostly will contribute to screenplays. It didn't think it was going to be a Tolkien novel straight out the gate, but it was just more out of my own curiosity. Yeah, go ahead, Care.
No, I telling you, this book was just vibes on vibes. It seriously did read like an early draft, though. Like it read like an early draft, which is unfortunate. Like I'm sure that he could do so much better. But somebody had to have and I think Talia's right. Like somebody had to have told him. Somebody had to have told him honestly, and he had to have been willing to make the appropriate changes or engage with the writing in a certain way. And I don't know what kind of guy he is. Like there are a lot of writers out there. You give them a critique and they're like, no, this is my baby. This is how it must be written. This is how I've envisioned it. This is how, and they don't want to make those changes. We don't know if he was this one of those weird people. Maybe he did get this feedback and he was like, no, I'm not doing it. You don't know. You never know because we don't know him. So let's hear what Seidel had to say. So first, she said that it was hard for her to get into in the beginning. She wonders if maybe it was her own social setting and like kind of her stage in life rather than the book itself. Because I know that we've had those experiences in the past where we are like, this is a good book, but it was difficult for me to read during this time.
Yeah.
Yeah. She also actually, and I think Brie, you mentioned that that you had issues with the audiobook, and Seidel said something similar. Seidel was saying that she found the beginning hard to get into, and the audiobook was narrated by a man, and it was a male main character, and she was like, who is this man? Why do I care about this man? Right.
I thought it was narrated by a man and a woman. They alternated. But again, my difficulty was with when it changed perspective. Sometimes
exactly. I think that's what she means, is that it was narrated by a man and it didn't really like switch, because I think previous books that we have read where you all listen to the audiobook, there was a little bit more variety between perspectives. But I don't think that is a result of the narrator on the audiobook. I think that's much more likely to be a result of the fact that the points of view are written exactly the same. There's no variation in the voice between the different perspectives.
And you have to think about the voice actors working off of the book. So if the voices are not different in the book, the voice actor really has nothing to go off of.
Exactly, precisely. So Sai said, she said that she did enjoy it, and she did really like the book, but it was hard to follow at some points. And she thinks that part of the problem is just that she was really busy and while she was reading, and so it was difficult to really get immersed and get involved. And then she ends her voice note to me saying that she's sending this message now because her phone is at 1% and she doesn't want it to not send. So so for what less than anybody else who's new to watching, our fifth regular is Seidel, who has been a little bit irregular these last couple times because she's been moving house and like looking for a new apartment and everything, and she just got her keys today, so she's not here today. But hopefully she will be here this weekend, because I know this is like the one time where we're going to do book club back to back, because Redemptor comes out on Tuesday, and I know that we are all very excited.
And I think actually now that we've made this change to go straight into Redemptor, I kind of feel even happier that we went through this book first, because now I'm just kind of like, oh, now I'm ready for something good. Yeah.
I feel kind of bad saying that, but it's true.
It's true.
Yeah, like, and it's so unfortunate because this book had potential.
If Lou is watching this, I'm really sorry. I love you. I still love you.
Look, it's in a class with Jupiter Ascending, Valerian, and John Carter,
Yeah,
which a lot of people loved, a lot of people hated,
I loved
but a
all
lot
of
of
those
people
films.
enjoyed. I love all of
Yeah.
them, but are they
More
earth shattering?
maybe more those three, and not me because I didn't graduate. Money issues, but I, speak to one of these three, get them as consultants, right? Let's just
Ooh.
polish up the science.
I have a consultant rate. Anybody who wants biological input on your book, movie, script, show, hire me.
Yeah.
Find me on LinkedIn.
Please do. Please
Yeah.
help these people. And as that was my suggestion, I just want a photo of you in a turtleneck, and that's fine by me.
A signed photo of him in a turtleneck.
Yeah. I think it'll make a great script. I think that this as a movie, I'll be first in line to get my tickets. Right. I like that there was not too much focus on the descriptions of people that they were pretty, or especially women, because literally anybody can play those roles. Literally anybody.
Except for where that the Mano folks have to be light skinned. That's the only.
Yeah, that's fine.
I want to venture. I'm gonna step out on a limb for a second, and I want to say it's definitely very apparent that he is not only an actor but a screenwriter. And I think, look, when you're writing a screenplay, you're writing it expecting that a lot of the characters are going to come to life on screen, that a lot of liberties are going to be taken by the actors, and so then your movie really comes to life on screen, but not on the screenplay. So I there's probably a lot of influence for that. Because like Allegra was very 2D, very, very. She was a girl. He fell in love. They formed a kingdom together. Awesome. Whereas if they picked a really great actress for her, I don't know, I can't think of one on the top of my head, but that would bring that character alive, then it would be so different, right? The second thing is I could definitely see how some of the scenes were written with a movie in mind, specifically the fight scenes. And like there was a scene during the fight where he's like looking at the general or something like that, and it's describing like the instant that they're locking eyes, so, like that. And it's just the fight scenes were very much written cinematic, which I loved. Don't get me wrong, I loved how the fight scenes were written in this book. So Lou Diamond Phillips gets a huge plus for that, and I think that comes from his background in film. So would this movie translate into an amazing film? I think with the right actors, absolutely.
I mean, it wasn't even just like the fight scenes, but even just kind of like visually, like building, like middle tier, mid tier, like
imagine an oversweeping view.
This like oversweeping view of the ocean and stuff, and how he described that, like, and there was a lot of, I think, flourish in that, and my imagination was just kind of like on overrun with a lot of those descriptions.
I wanna jump off of that because I agree. I think that he did a fantastic. So this book was written, I think, originally as a screenplay. I think I read an interview or a review or something where somebody was like, he wrote it as a screenplay and then it became a novel. And you could definitely see that foundation of this was a screenplay. There is no question about that. I completely agree. You definitely saw all of that background in it. And that's part of the problem for me, is that he got all the technical things that I guess he probably needed a screenplay, right? But a lot of those technical things that you want in a screenplay, you don't want that in a novel. It creates too much distance between a reader and the character, and it creates too much. It creates problems for the perspective, which is part of what I was experiencing, right? And I think that you could lean on his descriptions of the world. I think this world was very vivid. I think where these characters lived and what the surroundings look like, the setting, what the individual like the Magneto sword things and like all of those little details, the world was really clear and detailed, and then the characters were just like, whoop.
Yeah. Did any of you guys play Horizon Zero Dawn? Are you familiar with it?
Yeah.
Shayna's nodding her head. I got Horizon Zero Dawn vibes when they go underneath the house and they had the old abandoned thing, and he was able to talk to the other planet, and then also the tree. Horizon Zero Dawn vibes. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Kier. Sorry.
No, you're
Totally
fine.
agree,
I'm interrupting people constantly because I'm excited. So like, it's cool. You interrupt me back. That's not a big problem.
I think because he's worked with so much great actors who tend to ad-lib on set, and then those ad-libs get added in, and it creates like a richer character for the story. I think like you can see that he's banking on that. I genuinely think they should have stayed as a screenplay. I love the book. I really enjoyed reading it. Again, I'll be first in line when the movie comes out because I'm manifesting that. And yeah, I think that honestly it should have stayed a screenplay.
Well, look, a screenplay is an intermediary between the writer and the audience. A novel is just writer to audience. So there was a missing link maybe in some moments.
Yeah, but I definitely do want to reinforce. Oh, sorry, go Shayna.
Oh, I was gonna say it was a screenplay made for streaming.
Yeah, I definitely do wanna lean on like, if you don't have the same technical hangups that we have in this chat, I think this is a book that you should. Yeah, this is a book that you should and could read, especially if you like science fiction and fantasy. And if you like SFF that's told in that Edgar Rice Burroughs more kind of way, right? Where it's the style of writing and the distance between the writer and the reader is a little bit more, it's a little more on the telling than the showing side, with like that kind of vibe. Not necessarily that Edgar Rice Burroughs does more telling than showing, but I mean, it's stylistically, the work in this book is much more like work like 30 years ago, I think, for sure. Right? I wanted to like err on the side of caution and be like at least 10 years ago, but I honestly think it's much more like work written 30 years ago. Or even perhaps more, if I'm honest. But man, no, not so much more. But like science fiction written like 30 years ago. And don't get me wrong, I think that there is modern science fiction that is written kind of like that, but it does have that flavor, like Brie was saying. It does have that flavor. And I think that if that's your kind of book, read this book. If you are like us and you have those kind of technical hang-ups and you think that you would enjoy a book with those kinds of issues, don't read this book. Just go watch him on screen, right? But I will agree, Brie, you said that you loved this book and that it was a ride, it was good vibes, it was adventure. Yeah, it was entertaining. And I agree. I think that this was an entertaining book. And as long as you could set those pieces aside, and you can be like, okay, this is a little bit of a problem. There's a bit of a loophole here. This is not exactly gelling with the plot, right? Just bloop. Yeah.
Just Bad has some great
advice.
Yeah.
I must say that though novels that make good TV are the future. Oh, yes. So novels that make good TV are the future even more than it is now. I agree with that, but I'll also be honest. I actually don't think this would make the plot, it would be fantastic to look at. But if you put this book on screen, I'm going to be like, how? How'd that happen? Why?
Mm-hmm.
Why not?
Well, hopefully when it goes to screen, they'll get the biology advisor. I volunteer as tribute.
And I'd like to make some notes about some of the
Science.
Yeah, the rest of it.
Some of the physics.
So we have biology of aerospace. Call us. Diamond Phillips. We're here for you, babe.
Just call me for calling me sake.
Oh, Talia.
I mean,
this was legit. I would put up a fight with Talia for Lou. I really would.
I could be a plot advisor because I could tell you where all the plot holes are. There are like 2 plot holes. There are like 4 plot holes that come to mind immediately. maybe giving some of the women a little bit more depth, all of that thing.
The woman that had most depth in that book was the guy whose house he stayed at. The daughter.
That's not Miranda.
Miranda
as well.
Yeah.
She had. I think she had the best characterization than the others.
Yeah, I agree. After she was kind of unveiled as a character, I was kind of pissed off with Allegra in general. Just existing. Yeah.
Yes. What Les says, On Way Too Bad, I think you're right, but only if it's done right. Many novels that come to screen were done horribly. Absolutely true. And On Way Too Bad says, I don't know, people can... Oh, what happened there? We lose Brie. I don't know, people conflict and emotion is what drives success in TV. I've seen so much of it trending on stream. Yeah. All of this is true. I definitely think of it. Talia, you're off camera now.
Which
Baba, what happened? Oh, you want laps? Okay. All right.
Like part of me was
thinking,
thinking, part of me was thinking a really good kind of off spin from this would have been if like Miranda would have gotten with like Commander General Giza from Indira. I would have liked to seen that pairing.
Fan fiction.
Yeah.
Haley Diamond, can we get rights?
I know, right?
Yeah, I think that this book is ripe for fan fiction from people like us who like have our own ideas of what are all the plot holes and how to fix them and what would have been a better story. Yeah. But I enjoyed the fever dream that was this book. I did. This book really spoke to young writer Care who wanted to write that like incredibly sprawling, crazy epic where nothing made sense but everything was fantastic. You know? Like all of the things like that. I feel it. I feel it. And you know what? I think that because he said in that same interview that I read that this was a book 10 years in the making, you know? And I feel that vibe, man. Like you start off on this one book, like this is the book of your heart, this is the dream, you want to write this book. And he did it. You know, and there's so many of us out there who don't, and he had the advantage of being able to make sure that it saw print. You know what? Fuck yeah, bro.
Yeah, if I had that kind of celebrity, I was doing that.
Yeah, I was doing it. I think it's all good. It's all good. It could have been better. But it's all good. Because it was a good vibe. It's a good vibe.
So the next
my
book.
takeaway is because what I think some of the issues that I was having with this book is like I feel making it steampunk for the visuals would just be too much. It would be too much, it would make no sense. And I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. Because I want it. And that's enough for me. It is going to have steampunk elements in it. Right? Like it or love it because I, the writer, want it. Hi, sorry, yeah, but like paying pep tax.
I think y'all could probably have seen you probably saw him when he climbed into my lap in the first place.
Yeah.
And like you saw his like little face and stuff, but now he's
on his collar.
Oh yeah, because he's the flower child. He's a good boy. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's basically like I looked at it and I'm like, he was able to put the elements that he wanted in it because the premise of the Tinderbox was the original, the Hans Christian Andersen. It did involve falling in love with the princess. So he put that in. And he's like, you know what? But I want these fantastical creatures and I want to make it this and I want to put this in and I want to put that in. And again, we came away with a visually rich book.
It was definitely visually rich. That is
Very
one of
its
the really great strengths.
Right.
I want to talk a little bit about there was a word. Can we talk about the Tinderbox? Can we talk about the Tinderbox itself?
Actual Tinderbox.
Shay, I'm looking at Shay's face. Shay, you go. You do this. You start.
No.
Yes, I'm gonna make you do it. So this is the spoiler stream. It always will be because we talk the book full Monty, all the spoilers. So tell us Shay about the Tinderbox and what it was, why he was looking for it and what it did and why.
Well, I don't even think Everson knew why he was looking for it. It's kind of like thrust upon him. He was like, you go into the tree and do the thing. And he's like, well, what's the thing? I was like, God. All right. So getting to the Tinderbox, I thought I felt like it took up a lot of the story. Like to me, it felt like half of the book had gone by and we finally had like found Everson got to, go into the tree and he was presented like 3 dogs, DOGs to pass through in order to get to the Tinderbox, which then the Tinderbox's powers were that you could command those 3 dogs you had to get past. Little Sphinx-likes, okay. I don't know. I the fact that, you know, these three dogs, which ended up being basically like two robots and a portal box, were a little bit strange for me. And I was a little more disappointed in the fact that, you know, you had like this awesome like orb that seemed to like extract bone marrow, some kind of fluid from Everson to like identify, you know, him from magical DNA properties. I don't know. And then you have like the whole vision wrapped up into where he sees it at the end. I was confused by that whole scene, and then kind of like the rest of it as he kind of used it started to make a little more sense. I don't know. I was mad that he completely like the robot. There's like a humanoid robot that was female. It reminded me a little bit of the Jetsons and like their maid that they had, only like way more awesome. I don't know. Kind of like her description kind of reminded me of her. But then I just felt like she was horribly misused. Like towards the end, I was like, you could have done so much more with everything you had instead of just using. Well, one, I was pissed off because like Everson kept using like this magical portal box just to like talk with the princess, and then that was it. Like you could have done so much more.
Because when gal is the only thing on your mind, gal is the only thing on your mind. Right? This is a YA. Remember, this is a YA book.
Yeah.
It's gal is gal is gal. It's all gal.
I'm like, we never saw the orb again, like that first dog. Like it never got used again after it kills the witch. And I was kind of mad about that because that could have been a useful tool, I felt like. Yeah, I don't know. I was unimpressed by all of that.
I felt like for a title item, it was very underwhelming.
Yeah.
Very underwhelming.
Very
but
underwhelming.
Also, I think, and you reminded me of this when you mentioned the dogs, but I feel like this book had so many. I think that this book intended to have a lot of symbolism that didn't really make it
come to fruition.
That exactly. That didn't really.
He had a lot that he wanted to accomplish.
And that's one of the reasons that I say that I didn't think this book would make it, because it's full of them vibes. But if you wanted any of those acronyms to hit the home, or any of those or any of those symbols to hit the home that you really wanted it to hit, I think that you needed to split this book. If this book were a trilogy, and I got a deeper dive, and I had a clear arc for each of because there was a lot going on. Like I said, fever dream. Plenty was happening. If you like broke it up and you did that, I would lick that trilogy up though. I'd have be like a flicking roti. Like that's.
You know how I interpreted it almost. The vibe that I got. You know how we used to do or we still do sometimes, I don't know, like writing challenges, and you're like, I want a short story with a locket and a kiss and something happens at midnight.
Yeah.
And then you write your story with those three elements. I got the vibe that he's like, okay, we need the Tinderbox, we need dogs, we need this, we need that, and the prophecy, the girl, and then so he hit it, but he just tapped the gong, okay, we got it. It like you're saying, Kira, it wasn't the deep dive.
Gonna tick some boxes here. Yeah. So he to do a retelling and to be like, okay, I'm doing the Tinderbox and I'm going to hit the elements of this story. He did that, but it was like you said, it was like a ticking a box. Yeah. but then it was kind of like I felt like there was room for him to use each of the dogs in a different way that would maybe kind of drive the plot of the story a little bit better. I don't know. The whole beginning of that journey for him getting into the second stage, right, to get to the second dog, I felt like the whole thing was kind of unnecessary. I was when that did nothing in the end, because he still had to hold the Tinderbox and strike it in order to summon each of the dogs, right? It wasn't I felt like anyone probably could have done that, and I don't think anyone ever tried, but like the whole fact that you had to have these like bodily fluids removed from him, like that seemed unnecessary by the end of the story.
I still don't understand why that happened.
I don't get why that happened at all.
Yeah, the trial scene didn't make too much sense to me either. So that would have been an opportunity to do more of a deep dive, I think, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Definitely, I'm more interested in like the technologies because remember I said I got that Horizon Zero Dawn vibe. So I'm like, we're going into this abandoned like facility. Like there was an opportunity there to really go into the backstory of the original culture, the original technology, and now they're rediscovering it as a new colony. But it's like you're rediscovering your past. That would have been a really cool world building opportunity for sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Like, I was just wondering what this story in Micaiah Johnson's hands would have done.
Oh my god, I have been
Ooh.
trying so hard from day one to be like, yeah, this was no space between worlds.
Oh yeah, no way. I really
Oh
think
my
If you
God.
took this and we're like, Micaiah, would you like to write some fan fiction? Here.
how about we like clean slate this and be like, here are some elements, go.
Like I was
Space
reading
Between
and I'm
Worlds
like,
is a debut novel, so Micaiah, we need something else now from you.
No,
she
there's
is.
a two. There's a
She
two.
is.
She tweeted that Space Between Worlds
Oh.
2 is on the way.
That's amazing.
She responded
nearly died.
because
I got goosebumps. I'm ready.
Firstly, read that she doesn't really come on Twitter much. So I'm like, well, whenever you come on Twitter again, just so you know, we did your book for book club. We absolutely loved it. Yada, yada, yada. She liked it. She responded. I fainted. I called. I picked up the phone. I was like, right?
And I was like, that didn't happen. And then I went on Twitter and then I fainted. And then she told me where to get a signed copy of the book.
Yeah.
Which I bought, except that they didn't have any left. So they were like, well, when Micaiah comes back, she'll sign one for you and then we'll send it. And I was like, that's fine. I can wait a few weeks. I don't care. So, and I was like, if she's open to personalization, like this is the name.
To the leader of the Bad Bitch Book Cults. Which is fine.
I mean, that's not what I asked. I just asked for my name, but that's fine too.
That's fair.
Oh man. Yeah. That book.
Shortly after, when she came on Twitter, she responded and then she said that she was going to do a sequel. Yeah. So when she came on and she responded and so on, she said that she was going to do a sequel, and it's probably going to be based in Ashtown.
Sorry. Okay.
See, like when the premise for the show Into the Badlands was like first like show, I didn't actually watch that show. Like I think I watched like tidbits of like the pilot episode,
right?
And like in my mind, where I wanted that whole story and show to go, ended up being completely different from the direction it took. But in that kind of respect, that's what I wanted. That's what I want for like Space Between Worlds to like come to the screen and.
What was that noise? That is the noise of my soul leaving my body as I wait for the next book. So, okay.
As we all wait.
Yeah, I'm gonna dive into our wrap up because we're almost to the 5 o'clock, and obviously, I think that we've said most of what we want to say about this book.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about a whole different book now. So like, we're there. We're at that point in our like meeting where we're just like, a few weeks ago, a couple book clubs ago, we read a debut novel by a writer named Micaiah Johnson. It's a science fiction. It's a science fiction novel.
My pick.
Called The Space Between Worlds. Yes, it was Bree's pick, and it was fantastic. We were all blown away. We were floored. Every single one of us was just like, this book blew my mind. This book grabbed my heart. This book sucked my soul out, chewed it up, and then spat it out at my feet and said, there you go, bitch.
And
Right?
we said thank you.
And we said thank you. Yeah, and we thanked this writer.
Thank you.
Can I have another,
Have
please?
another.
Yeah, and asked for more. This was such a good book. Such a good book. It is, I think this is perhaps my favorite book of the year,
Yeah.
if not my favorite book of the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, it's
This
definitely
book-
a contender.
Right. This book is even better than Raybearer, the sequel for which we are reading on this coming Sunday. We'll be talking about it. Erin says Space Between Worlds was amazing. I read it on your recommendation. Whatla says that is a violent soul leaving body experience. You are not incorrect, sir. It was such a brilliant book. It was such a brilliant book.
Do not
Right.
Involuntary.
do not read
Yeah.
it before you read this book. Read Tinderbox first, because after you've read that, everything else pales in comparison.
It's true. It's true.
True.
So much of what we read since reading The Space Between Worlds. The Space Between Worlds is one of those books that made me stop and look at my work as a writer and be like, should I even fucking bother? Like,
It set
will
the
I
bar.
ever write something this incredible?
I was editing my previous book and I was like, no, throw away. It's
Yeah.
literally there doing
Throw the
nothing.
whole book. Throw the
Throw the
whole book.
whole
Throw me
book
the whole
away.
writing career.
Fun.
Throw me the whole writing career. That's what happened. So, okay.
Yeah. I put down everything I was writing and just walked away. I was done.
Yeah, you had to. You had to. It was
Yeah.
too good. It was too good. It really made me just stop and be like, are you really a writer if you can't make somebody bleed from every orifice?
And thank you for it.
And thank you for it.
Ladies.
Anyway, I'm
Ladies.
sorry. I'm just saying. Lee. Like, this was such a fantastic book.
It was.
It was.
It was though.
Right? Also, like, for anybody who has weird LGBT sensitivities, it's a super queer book. Characters in it are totally gay. Everybody in this
Sapphic romance.
book club is also totally gay. So we are absolutely about that life. Hey, the bots have arrived on Twitter. Look at that. I mean, not Twitter, Twitch, whatever.
In Twitch, yeah.
And Twitch. Anyway, so let's do some closing thoughts on the actual book that we were here to read, and then we will wrap up and end today's book cult gathering. Let's start with Talia, Brie, and then I'll go next. Shayna, you can wrap up since it was your pick, and then I'll talk a little bit about our next book, and we can sign off at that point. Yeah, Talia.
I liked it. I loved it. I did have a lot of suspension of belief to go through. This was a really good book, but it wasn't great. And what is bad about this book is that it could have been great. Greatness was there within reach, within grasp. I do recommend reading it if you are going on a long flight with no children. Or you're going into the hospital for a couple of days and you need something to... I do recommend, this book has its place. I do wish that he had listened to an editor who did not give a fuck about who he was and said, listen, this part is shit. And it doesn't need to be shitty because it's a great it was a really great premise, and I really wanted to see it like take off and prosper. But I would love to see it on screen. Right? I'm very excited to see this on screen. Right? And I really hope that he gets what he needs to get this done. And again, we have aerospace biologists, turtleneck consultants available. Right? And yeah, this was a decent book. Take a read, pass it on to your kids. You know, it was decent. It was a decent book.
Cool. Thank you, Brie.
also enjoyed it. I enjoyed it because of what it was. It was entertaining. It gave me an adventure across a world I've never been to. It showed me things I've never seen before. It gave me elements that, like Kier mentioned, that us as young writers would have loved: a prophecy, a romance, winning the kingdom, bringing two worlds together, solving, systemic racism over your worlds. It's like all these things that are just like big and beautiful, and I want like a big beautiful score, like John Williams playing in the background. It was entertaining. If you're a fan of movies like Jupiter Ascending, Valerian, and John Carter, you're going to enjoy this book because it is the same flavor of ice cream. It's going to give you the same feeling, the same enjoyment, but also suspending the same amount of belief that you have to with movies like that. My services are up for hire. Should this want to go to film, I would love to work with y'all. And I would love to see this on film. So if Blue Diamond is listening, if producers are listening, I mean, we're not that famous, but just in case, on an off chance, 4 of us would like to see this on film, and I'm sure our opinions are echoed among others. So would I recommend the book? Absolutely. Did I enjoy it? Absolutely. Are there things I would have done differently? Perhaps. But he did it, he wrote it, he got it published, and hey, that's half the battle. So thumbs up, Blue Diamond Phillips.
Sweet. I love how you're like, we're not that famous, as though we're famous at all.
Girl, we are what we believe.
We are pre-famous. It's coming, man.
We're pretty famous. Oh God. Anyway, okay. So my closing thoughts. I loved the fever dream that was this book. I loved that this book reached. This book reached. I don't think it made it, but it reached. It reached high. It reached far. It tried to do a lot of things. It tried to do so many things, and it shows. Would I recommend this book? I think whether or not I would recommend this book depends entirely on what you do enjoy and how well I know what you enjoy. So like, if you enjoy the things like that we described, which I happen to enjoy, which is probably why I was like, yeah, man, this book is vibes, right? Like I feel it. I feel it. It's not well executed, but it's vibes and I like it. Yeah, like I think that if that's your jam, if you are cool with reading a book just for the vibes, right? Just for the beautiful setting and description of the environment, if you don't give a shit about whether or not your women characters are 3-dimensional, if you are perfectly happy to overlook certain plot holes for the sake of enjoying the vibe and the adventure and, just of being along for the ride, I definitely... this is a YA book. Would you recommend to that audience? Not. I mean, it's the same thing that I'm saying now applies. It doesn't matter if you're a young adult reader or an adult reader. I think that especially if you are an avid or a critical reader, this is what matters. Okay, because you don't have. It doesn't matter if you're 14, 15, 16, or 35. If these are things that matter to you versus things that don't matter to you. Yeah, I don't think that age matters for this particular thing. But yeah, ultimately, like if you are chill to just be along for the ride and enjoy the vibes and feel yourself and feel the book and enjoy the world building and all of that stuff, read it. It is for you. If you feel like a book that does not get the technical aspects of modern fiction down, and you don't enjoy that sort of monotonous or like singular voice throughout a book, even though it is multiple perspectives and third person. If you don't, if you are one of those people who you will read a lot of info dumps and telling and be like, ugh! Like if you're one of those people, don't read this book. It is a great ride. It's a great vibe. I liked the book. It had a lot of potential, but then you will, like me, feel like it reads like an early draft. And I don't think you'll enjoy it as much because I do think that when most people pick up a print book, they expect not something that reads like an early draft. Yeah, that's it. That's how I feel. I enjoy this fever dream. It speaks to the baby writer in me. It does all the things I wanted to do with a book. when I was that age, and I love it. When I say that age, obviously not Lou Diamond's age. I mean,
Writing
I mean, like,
experience age.
yeah, when I was like a baby writer. Yeah, Shay, take it away.
All right. So, I mean, I echo a lot of the things that all you ladies, my fine ladies, have said. You know, I specifically picked this book just curious to see where it would go, what kind of adventure would I be taking on. And I was not disappointed. I enjoyed it. I definitely would recommend it to people. But I'd say, you know, is this a serious piece of fiction that, you know, is super well thought? It's going to have you kind of turning all sorts of, you know, gears in your head. No. This is an enjoyable story, visually enjoyable story. This is something that, you know, I think I got exactly what I asked for out of this. I got, you know, a journey. I got an adventure. I got, you know, a lot of ideas that I want to take back and explore. You know, it was a little bit inspiring. Some of the little tidbits and ideas that I got to pick up and read for. And it's exactly what I needed. I needed something to kind of spark my imagination again as a writer, because, you know, ever since The Space Between Worlds, I really haven't written anything because I've just been so demoralized. And I needed something just to kind of re-spark that imagination and say, you know what, this is not the most polished thing that I've read, but it's still enjoyable. And if that works for Lou Diamond Phillips, then damn it, it's gonna work for me too. And I'm gonna get back to writing now. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah. Just to address a couple comments in the chat, I'm just saying that this is someone who might breathe Paxtonarian might enjoy this. Yeah, that might be true. I think that's not a bad comparison. It's also older style of writing, was written, I think, before I was born or around when I was born, not too long after it was. It's not a new book, Paxtonarian's Adventures. I read it many a year ago. But yeah, like I think that that was a great. I think that's how Shane has described it that's a perfect way to end our discussion on that book. It's fantastic. So if you liked hearing us rave about books, because I know we have a few folks who are new to watching us, like What Last. Join us on Sunday coming at the same time, 3 p.m. Trinity time, which is Atlantic Standard, which is right now the same as it is on the East Coast of the US. Join us. We are going to talk about Redemptor. Redemptor is book 2 in a duology by Jordan Ifueko. It is a young adult fantasy novel. We absolutely loved book 1, which was Raybearer. It was the first book club book that we read, and we were just like, it was perfect because we enjoyed the crap out of it.
Yeah.
It was not The Space Between Worlds. It was a very different book.
Different book. I was floored by Raybearer, and then I was put the rest of the way into my grave by A Space Between Worlds.
So Jordan Ifueko and Micaiah Johnson are just killing us.
And this is my resurrection.
It brought you back.
That's a good way to go about talking about it. Yeah. And I do want to say that to like any writers out there who are hearing this, do not feel demoralized. Like, I think that books that are just a great, fun, fantastic write, they have their place. They are important. They're fantastic. They're wonderful. And I can only hope that I can be one of those writers as much as I hope to be one of those writers like Micaiah Johnson, right? Like, I would love to be both. Not necessarily in the same book. I think that that's damn difficult. And I'm not going to give myself that goal. But I would like to definitely have more than one book that does all of those things. So I think that's it, though. Definitely What Less, Onway, Erin, David, anybody else watching. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for chatting with us, hanging with us. Definitely. I think that if our video for BookCult's Redemptor is not up yet, it will be in the next couple hours, because I will put it up right now, because it is happening next Sunday at 3 p.m. Atlantic Standard. So that's it, y'all. Thank you all, and I'll see you on Sunday coming. Bye.